I got an emergency contract. How do you prep, learn, and memorize a score really fast? Hey, thanks for joining me. My name is Keith Harris. This is Keith's Keys, and I've been away for a while, and I appreciate some of you that have noticed. The reason I've been away is I got an emergency contract. I was hired to cover Prior Walter and Angels in America at New York City Opera. And I got the score on a Wednesday, and the first rehearsal was on a Monday. And I had to sing on that Monday because the guy I was covering wasn't feeling well. So, wow, how do you learn it so quickly, especially an incredibly difficult score like this? Well, the first thing is you need to know your learning style. And why do you need to know that? What's the big deal? And why do I know so much about this? Well, I'm dyslexic, and I had a lot of trouble learning how to learn. Notice how I said that, learning how to learn. See, when I was in third grade, my third grade teacher wanted to move me from the lowest level reading class, where I was getting about a D, sometimes a C, to the class with children with Down syndrome. And my parents said, no, don't do that. And they said, no, really, we need to. Your kid isn't, your kid's dumb. And we're just going to keep moving him down the aisle. Well, my parents didn't allow that to happen. They said, no, you're going to move him up to the regular class. And the teacher said, okay, you know what? He's going to fail. He's going to flunk. Well, an amazing thing happened. I continued to get a C or a D. Same grade, harder material. Why? Because it wasn't the material I couldn't grasp. It was comprehension itself. I had to learn how I learn. And by being forced to do that, I have gotten better and better at figuring out what the combination is in my brain to do things, so that when I get to a big project like this, now I have a real system and an understanding of how my brain works. I am a visual learner, right? So that means I have to essentially see it to believe it. And how did that work like in college, for example? Well, if a professor was giving a lecture, if I could picture the story, say it was a history class, if I could picture the story in my head and play the movie, then I had the information. If someone just threw data at me, it would bounce off my brain and go away. So I always had to learn how to translate whatever I was reading or being taught or being told into pictures, because pictures I could remember. You might be a different kind of learner. And you might be a visual learner like me. You might be an auditory learner. Maybe you're someone that you don't really get the material until you read it out loud. Or maybe you're a tactile learner, a kinesthetic learner. You're a hands-on person. If someone shows you how to do it and you dig your hands in or you take it apart and figure it out for yourself, then you understand how it works. Typically, nobody is only one style. We usually have bits and pieces of all three styles that work into our lives. But usually there's one that really sticks out. And knowing what that is can make a huge difference in how you study. Because now you'll start to learn how to focus on particular items that make sure that they complement your learning style. As you learn what those are and how to use them, then you get better and better and better at using them and faster. So how do you figure out what your learning style is? Well, there's a really cool test I found online that you can take. Go to educationalplanner.org. Then at the top of the screen, go to Students. To the side of the screen, then you go to Self-Assessments. Then, what's your learning style? It's a 20-question test, doesn't take that long, and then it'll tell you the percentages of learning styles and what your main learning style is, and it'll give you an outline of what things you should focus on to really promote your main learning style. So, once you know your learning style, then what? How you can just jump into a score and eat it up, right? Not really. There's a few short things I want to tell you about score study, and that is number one, do not cut corners. You can work much longer days if you have to, but don't cut corners. If you have to do the translation, if you have to look up words you don't know, if you have a specific way of marking up your score and preparing it, you still have to go through that piece by piece. Because what happens is people get in a rush, they miss stuff, and then they make mistakes. And if you're going to learn the score wrong or you're not really able to perform it, then you really haven't done the company any good. So you can work super long days, and that's how you get through it, but don't cut corners. That's the most important thing. The next thing is, when you're going through it, keep in mind you can still only learn one page at a time. But when you're going quickly, review often. You know, learn one page, learn two, then review 1 and 2, then learn 3, then review 1, 2, and 3. And you'll be surprised if you take a break every hour. Let's say you work 45 minutes, take a 15-minute break, so your brain will stay fresh all day. You'll be surprised how quickly you start knocking out scenes and how things start to go. Another thing I want to show you here, this is a very difficult score. So I use pictures to help learn my score, right? So as you'll see here, there are a lot of times that meter changes. So I put the meter changes in a different color, so that as I'm going through, my brain literally, if you ever see me on stage singing like this, it's because I'm reading the music. I try not to do that. But in my brain, if I can see it, I see those pink hashes, I know a change is coming, and I can picture it that way. So those are the big things, really. Know your learning style. That's super, super important. And don't cut corners. And very best of luck to you. If you have any questions that I can answer, please email them to me, keithharristraining@gmail.com. We'll talk to you again soon.